Hi, I'm Amaya, and welcome back to my channel. Stacy, aespa, LE SSERAFIM, ILLIT, TWICE, Baby Monster, Blackpink, and NMIXX. These groups are from different companies and generations, but they've all experienced the same thing, the inevitable girl group hate train. A hate train can occur at any time. For ILLIT, this began before they even debuted, with bunnies claiming that everything they did was copying NewJeans, from having long undyed hair to being a 5-member girl group. With a group like aespa, their hate train took longer to develop. It appeared in the last year when they started releasing songs aimed more towards a Western audience like Dirty Work, Rich Man, and WDA. But the criticisms of their dancing, lack of facial expressions, and lip syncing have always been present. TWICE and LE SSERAFIM experienced the most criticism for their singing abilities, Blackpink for their performances and short discography, ITZY and Stacy for trying different genres, and NMIXX for their chaotic music. The question isn't if a girl group will experience a hate train, but when. When they reach a certain level of success, it's only bound to happen. While boy groups hear the same critiques, get protest trucks sent in front of their buildings, and experience boycotts, they tend to have stronger fan bases and not rely on the general public as much for support. Take NHYPEN for example, where Engines sent protest trucks in front of the building because they danced with female dancers. Or BRIZE, who boycotted RISE because Seunghan was removed from the group. With girl groups, people who are not part of the fan base will still keep up with them and in turn comment on things they don't like. A group's hate train can occur at any point in their career. The difference with NMIXX is that they were able to change their reputation from one of failure to one of success. How did NMIXX convince people to listen to them after having a debut that people called one of the worst of the year, to having an album of the year contender? We have to start by acknowledging that NMIXX's trajectory would have looked completely different had they debuted under a different company. NMIXX's first album had over 60,000 pre-orders before the group's lineup was even announced. This was a big deal, and it should have been. NMIXX was JYP's first girl group since ITZY. Everyone's eyes were fixed on them with sky-high expectations, and then the debut came. NMIXX debuted on February 22nd, 2022. They debuted with a 7-member lineup consisting of Haewon, Lily, Bae, Jiwoo, Jinni, Kyujin, and Sohyun. They debuted with a single album Admar, featuring the title track OO and B-side Tank, both to success and heavy criticism. Although the album performed well, most people did not like the song OO. The lyrics were almost nonsensical. They had a Coke Zero advertisement to start off the song, and it felt very abrasive for most people because of the change-ups in the middle. Although people could tell that the girls were talented, they were extremely disappointed with this kind of song from JYP's new girl group. The best decision they made here was going with something memorable. Although the song was very abrasive and they still needed to work out the kinks with mix pop, JYP went with something that people would remember NMIXX for, because OO is an unforgettable song. Their first comeback was September 19th, 2022 with the single album N-Twerk, featuring the title track Dice and B-side Cool Your Rainbow. Dice was a slightly less jarring song. Audiences seemed more open to this kind of sound from them. NMIXX also incorporated some of the mix pop styling into the concept of this album, so they related rolling the dice to changing up the genres within the song. Although Dice was not a big song at the time, it did have a comeback later on TikTok. This song introduced casual listeners to more of NMIXX's vocal abilities, which really helped them stand out in the most competitive year recently for girl group debuts. It was also a good decision to go with single albums for their first 2 comebacks because they were still defining their sound. It wouldn't make sense to pump out a bunch of music and they're still trying to figure out what they want the group to sound like. At the 2022 Mama Awards, NMIXX was nominated for Rookie of the Year. However, as I said, this was the most competitive year recently for girl group debuts. Within the past 4 years, 100%. NMIXX was up against IVE, Kepler, LE SSERAFIM, and NewJeans, who were all having great years. NMIXX did not win, making them one of few JYP rookie groups to not win Rookie of the Year. This was yet another loss used to criticize NMIXX in comparison to not only other girl groups at the time, but also to past groups from their company. This was the year IVE came out with 11, Love Dive, and Afterlike. NewJeans blew up with their first album and refreshing Y2K styling that went on to define the later half of 4th generation. LE SSERAFIM had just released Anti-Fragile, which was a huge song, and owned the Confident concept at this time. And people were still looking forward to what Kepler had to show because Girls Planet 999 was such a big survival show at the time. NMIXX fell behind at this point with their messy and chaotic style in such a saturated market with really heavy hitter groups. After this, NMIXX began their Nice to Mix You showcase tour with several stops in the US and a few stops in Asia. This allowed them to see overseas fans and perform to small audiences. I would have gone to see them, but their stop in DC was on Mother's Day, so I couldn't go. But otherwise, I definitely would have. Following their showcase tour, their second comeback was on March 20th, 2023 with the album NMIXX, which I own, featuring title track Love Me Like This. NMIXX means to wake up in Latin, and this was really an awakening for NMIXX. It was their first mini album after releasing 2 single albums. It was also where they developed more of their sound and tried to explore things within the confines of mix pop. This was also their best received title track at the time and their first music show win after a year as a group. Love Me Like This was a simple R&B song compared to what Ensers would expect at this time, but it hooked casual listeners because it was easy to listen to. Through their B-sides like Password and My Gosh, NMIXX brought in some of that experimental sound and was able to showcase more of their vocals. Home was a powerful song that was really new for NMIXX at this time, but they went on to make many more songs like this in their future albums. This was also their first era where they did an a cappella highlight medley, which went on to become something the group was known for. This also signaled a shift to focus more on their vocal abilities than their musical style. Although Love Me Like This was safe, it was the best decision to make at this point. I think this was a good choice to keep general audiences interested. This was NMIXX's third release, and by this point, if you don't put out something people like, they may stop paying attention. This was something that was able to slightly stick to NMIXX's mix pop styling while also making the general public not forget about them. This was also when NMIXX started using the pre-release strategy. My video on that will be linked in the description box. This strategy works for them because they use one track to appeal to casual audiences and one to appeal to their core fan base who really like that mix pop sound. This EP's pre-release was Young Dumb Stupid, which was not received as well as the title track, featuring some chanting and some vocals with less gradual transitions between sections. It was based on Frere Jacques, making it sound very childish, which was the theme, but it had a charm that some listeners enjoyed. After this album, we go on to see NMIXX really develop their music. They released a single album next called A Midsummer NMIXX's Dream on July 11th, 2023. This single album featured the pre-release Roller Coaster and the title track Party O'Clock. Both of these songs were received extremely well, including their music videos. Roller Coaster was dreamlike, which was a really popular style at this time. It did not lean into NMIXX's mix pop genre too much. Party O'Clock paired really well with Roller Coaster. It had NMIXX's signature elements like change-ups, but more development with beautiful harmonies, a fun beat, and some chanting that we got in their earlier songs. Continuing on with EPs and a full album after this, show NMIXX's commitment to really develop their sound going forward. Soñar was a pre-release that showed NMIXX's focus on their Latin American audience. This song features some Spanish lyrics with the title Soñar meaning to dream. This was an important moment because most K-pop groups, even from big companies, do not focus on audiences outside of Korea, Asia as a whole, the US, some European countries. It was very rare for a K-pop group to put this much dedication into their Latin American audience. When we talk about groups appealing to the West, it's mostly focused on the US and Europe, completely ignoring the Southern Hemisphere. This decision set NMIXX apart from other K-pop groups while they were still growing, allowing them to capture a passionate fanbase in a growing market, while other groups fight to gain popularity in more competitive regions. NMIXX didn't just use their Latin American fanbase for popularity. For their second fan concert, NMIXX Change Up Mix Lab, they had 5 shows in Mexico, Chile, and Brazil. They continued to appeal to their Latin American fan base by collaborating with Brazilian drag queen Pablo Vittar on 2 songs, Mesh, released August 21st, 2025, and Tick Tick, released February 26, 2026. They also became the first K-pop group to perform at Carnival in Brazil and Viña del Mar in Chile, 2 of the biggest musical festivals worldwide. NMIXX's commitment to this audience shows how intentional their team has been over the years. They noticed their popularity in this area and immediately appealed to their fan base. We'll talk about specific songs later on, but they even incorporated more Latin-sounding musical elements into their style as the years went on.
Dash, I wanna run it.
Dash dropped January 15, 2024 on their album FE304 Break. It was described as old-school hip-hop and pop-punk. As you can tell from the album title, this was the beginning of their FE304 series. Fe3O4 is the chemical formula for magnetite, and they play on the idea that NMIXX wants to attract more people to their music. Dash is one of the darker songs compared to NMIXX's whole discography, signaling a shift in their musical direction with this trilogy. It still has some of their signature musical elements, like quickly switching genres and their harmonies. This is also the era where NMIXX brought back those a cappella highlight medleys, which they have done for every comeback since. All of these songs were well received by fans, especially Run for Roses, which is a unique musical style we only hear from NMIXX. Break the Wall is another one of NMIXX's passionate hype songs like Home, and the other B-sides, Passion Fruit, XOXO, and Boom, are all fan favorites to this day. This album does a great job of exploring NMIXX's musical abilities while still feeling cohesive.
Yeah.
Their next entry into the Fe3O4 series was Stick Out with the title track See That. See That is another old school hip hop song. That album was released on August 19th, 2024. While I'm not a big fan of the Fe3O4 title tracks, they show NMIXX's versatility and willingness to experiment within their mix pop sound. You can hear NMIXX's signature through this song with really clear change-ups. While writing the script, I realized that this is the only NMIXX album I had never listened to in its entirety, so I decided to give it a listen. The album is really consistent, with songs like Sicka and Beat Beat having more hip-hop elements than their previous music does. Moving On is another one of NMIXX's passionate hype songs with more rock influences to match the style of this album. Although this is one of my least favorite albums from them, songs like Love Is Lonely show a lot of potential, and you can hear its influence on their future music. The final entry in the Fe3O4 series was Forward, released March 17th, 2025. This album's pre-release was High Horse, which is a classic amongst NSYRs. The best way to describe this song is epic yet sentimental. It really brings a tear to your eye. People rarely comment on NMIXX's dances since they're known for singing, but the dance for High Horse mirrors the story of the song in a really beautiful way. High Horse has a lot of emotion we rarely get in a promotional single, with most groups sticking songs like these as B-sides on bigger projects. High Horse as a pre-release was a great decision. NMIXX clearly saw their audience preferring songs like this to the hip-hop style title tracks of the Fe3O4 series, but instead of abandoning what the fans want or abandoning their vision for these albums, they appealed to both audiences at the same time by doing pre-releases for the fans and title tracks for their group's artistic vision. The title track for this era, Know About Me, is one of NMIXX's calmer songs overall. NMIXX stepped out of their typical style for this album, which allowed them to explore other sounds within the constraints of a new musical style while maintaining who they are as a group. For a group all about mixing things up, songs like Papillion and Ocean show the range of songs NMIXX can pull off. NMIXX's seventh comeback was with Blue Valentine. Blue Valentine is their biggest title track to date. It got them a ton of recognition, and this entire album was hit after hit. Blue Valentine won 10 times on music shows and was certified 2 times platinum in South Korea. I could make a separate video about each song on this album. My favorite songs are Reality Hurts, Podium, and Adore You. Rico has a Latin sound and some Spanish lyrics, which serves as a love letter to some of their most passionate fans. Phoenix is inspired by music from Sao Paulo, Brazil, and Podium is reggaeton, making 3 out of 10 songs on this album have strong Latin influences. These songs show NMIXX's lasting care and respect for their fans in Latin America. Blue Valentine is a K-pop masterpiece, and it would not exist without NMIXX's previous work. This song has everything: their signature change-ups, a deep emotional feeling, an ending that makes you want to hit replay, and of course NMIXX's amazing vocals. This song is also 3 minutes long, which is a little more rare in K-pop nowadays, but they managed to hold the viewer's attention by continuously changing things up. Getting back to talking about their album as a whole, they have rock influences on Adore You, R&B on Crush on You, electronic pop on Reality Hurts, and an alternative style on Spinning on It, yet the album feels like one cohesive project instead of a bunch of genres stuck together. At this point, NMIXX had become as successful as people expected from a JYP girl group. They even put 2 versions of their debut single, OO, on this project, Superhero and Baila, demonstrating NMIXX's commitment to always grow and change, but stay true to their group's identity. This album was the fruit of their labor over the previous 3.5 years, and its success was 100% deserved. After Blue Valentine, NMIXX embarked on their first world tour, Episode 1 Zero Frontier. This tour will span Asia, Europe, North America. Oh, That's it. I saw them, and if you can get a ticket, it is 100% worth going. They were my favorite concert that I've ever been to. And in a time where groups like aespa are struggling to sell concert tickets, my concert ticket video will be linked in the description, NMIXX is obviously doing something right to have sold out shows. They also had a live band at the concert, which really emphasized their commitment to being a music-focused group. After an album like Blue Valentine, people's expectations were extremely high. People wondered if NMIXX would be able to maintain their success from their previous era, or if it was a fluke. They began promotions with the pre-release Crescendo, which I could not praise enough. This song combines the electronic style of Reality Hurts with the magic that was going on in Blue Valentine, mixed with some drums. Their voices are like instruments in this song. This is everything we've grown to expect from an NMIXX pre-release in the best way possible. The title track, Heavy Serenade, is just as beautiful. The instruments sound amazing. The lyrics and emotion, it is exactly what we would expect from NMIXX. I Deserve It is a really cool song with a bold chorus that matches the message of appreciating all that you've done to achieve success. Different Girl speaks to me on another level. You know I love a trap beat, and that mixed with their whisper-like vocals makes for a great listening experience. Superior sounds like a marching band song, and it is clearly the most epic song on the album, something that NMIXX pulls off flawlessly. Loud has a Jersey Club beat, which I always love, and the lyrics on top of it are amazing. I love the energy this song has and how it goes from soft and airy vocals in the pre-chorus to being loud in the chorus, recreating the kind of relationship this song describes. I might even like this album more than Blue Valentine, which I did not think was possible before this era. NMIXX's trajectory shows the power of maintaining a group's identity from debut, recognizing and appreciating your audience, strong branding, and consistent growth with each comeback. Every problem that could have ruined NMIXX led to a lesson. They changed from their chaotic music, embraced the audience that music attracted by making songs specifically for them, started off with small performances to build up steam, showed off their vocals to gain attention, tried a trilogy to make more consistent music, then switched back to individual projects while still embracing the musical styles they tried through that trilogy. In such a competitive time for K-pop groups, when everyone is looking for instant success, NMIXX's trajectory shows the importance of consistency. Overcoming the girl group hate train is a marathon, not a sprint, and NMIXX shows us just how to do it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!